Hello, Professor BRB here. Today we're going to be using Adobe InDesign CS6 to create this interactive slideshow. And what we're going to be focusing on is creating a multi-state object. And a multi-state object sits on a page and has its own navigation. As you can see, I have these little navigation buttons down here, these little arrows. When I click on them, it cycles through pictures just like a small slideshow. And separate from that, of course, I have my page navigation buttons, which we created in the last lesson, and we'll be using that file. This is another multi-state object here, which you can see has a slightly different kind of navigation button, and I'll be explaining to you how I created that as well. So let's get started. We're going to be using the document we created in Lesson 01, where we set up our navigation system and a system of layers, which we will be using. And we also named our master page A Navigation. So let's go to A Navigation, our master page. And I'm going to delete the automatic page numbering we put on there because we really aren't going to be needing that. So the very first thing I'm going to do is create a grid for structuring my document. And I'm going to go to my layers palette, and my bottom layer is my guides layer. So I'm going to make sure I'm in that layer, and then go to layout, create guides. And be sure that you're on master page A when you're doing this. So I'm going to create a grid with 5 rows and a 10 pixel gutter. I'm going to make sure it's fit to margins, and then 5 columns, also a 10 pixel gutter, and I'm just going to click OK. And that's on Master A, so it's going to appear on all of my document pages. Now I'm going to lock that layer, and let's look at our destination document. You'll see I have a blue background here, and I've established a kind of a cool Alaska blue color palette. And I need to get some of those colors so that I'll have something to work with. And here, if you're not already acquainted with this feature, it's quite wonderful. Adobe, if you go to Window Extensions, has a terrific service called Cooler that creates color palettes. Well, actually, users have created these color palettes and uploaded them, and they're free for us to use. And this is just so nice. So I'm going to go to my swatches palette here. I'm going to go to Cooler, and I did a search for Alaska. And I can choose any of these color palettes here just by clicking on it till it's highlighted, and then hitting this little Add Selected Theme to Swatches. They call these color groups themes. If I do that, those colors now are populating my swatches palette. And I actually downloaded a few earlier before I started recording. So I have lots of nice colors here to work with. So I'm going to put Cooler away. And I'm going to go to page 1 of my document. And then I want to, I'm going to just tear this off for a moment. And I want to look at my layers and make sure that I am in my background layer, because I'm going to create that blue background. So I go to my rectangular frame tool, and I create a frame on that background layer, the size of my page. Up here, well, I can make sure my fill box is on top. And I'm going to choose this blue, but that's too dark, so let's reduce the tint to maybe, oh, I don't know, 34. That looks pretty good. And I'd also like on the background layer to create that top darker frame. So back to my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to fill up that first row of my grid going all the way out to the edge of my page. Then I'll choose this color. It's a nice dark color. And let's double check and make sure I'm in my background layer. That's great. So now I'm going to lock my background layer, and I'm going to change to my images layer so that I can import the images that I'm going to use for my multi-state object. So back to my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to fill up that first row of my grid going all the way out to the edge of my page. Then I'll choose this color. It's a nice dark color. And let's double check and make sure I'm in my background layer. That's great. So now I'm going to lock my background layer, and I'm going to change to my images layer so that I can import the images that I'm going to use for my multi-state object. I have previously set up a folder with my images and my InDesign files for this project, which is always a good idea. So I'm going to navigate to that now, choosing File Place. I want to use these 5 pictures of Glacier Bay. So I'm going to choose those and click Open. And now I'm going to hold down my Command key and my Shift key to create a grid. I'm going to start at the edge of my document here and just drag out to pull all 5 of my pictures in. Now those are still selected, and while they are selected, I'm going to go up here to my Align buttons, and I'm going to go Align Left Edges and Align Top. Then I'm going to choose Object, Fitting, Fit Frame to Content. Scooch that up there. Now, making sure they're all still selected, if I hold down my Shift key, I can drag that out, I think, maybe to there. Then I just go to Object, Fitting, Fit Content, or let's go Fill Frame proportionately. Okay, that looks great. Now I want to create my little navigation system for my multi-state object, but first I have to make this into a multi-state object. So if you're in your digital publishing workspace, your Object States panel should be there. So select that, making sure all 5 of my pictures are selected. I just choose Convert Selection to Multi-State Object. Here are all my states. I can rename them if I want to, but I'm not going to right now. But I am going to name my object. I'm going to call it Glacier Bay, because I may later put more multi-state objects in this document. So that's good. Got my multi-state object now. I'm going to navigate down here, and I want my multi-state object navigation buttons to look different than my page navigation so that they won't be confused. So I'm going to make a little arrow. Choosing my line tool here, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and just make a short line. And I'm going to make the stroke, let's say 10 points. A nice wide stroke. Going to my stroke panel here, I can choose a triangle wide arrow for the end of my stroke. So that now can be my button. And I'm just going to put my orientation marker here, hold down my Option key, and flip. A couple of taps of my arrow key. And now I have 2 terrific little arrows that I can use for my navigation system. Let's go to Buttons and Forms. Make sure that right-facing arrow is selected and choose Button. I'm going to name it Go to Next State. And I'm going to add the action, Go to Next State. I'm going to go in here and add a rollover state. Let's make it a different color. Choose a lighter color and add a little drop shadow. not that much. Let's change the drop shadow color here to something more agreeable. And reduce, okay, reduce the distance. Okay, that looks good. So we can create an object style for that. Window, styles, object style. And actually, let's just call that I'm just going to call it next state rollover. And make sure that apply style to selection is checked. Okay, that's good. So now I'm going to make my other button by selecting that arrow, going to buttons and forms, type button, name, go to previous state, add the action, go to previous state, add my rollover state by choosing my object style, and then return that to normal, and go back and return my other button to normal. So let's fit this in window. And let's just look and preview this and see how it works. So I'm going to preview spread there. And then I roll over. Those look great. And you can see that that functions perfectly. That's wonderful. Close the preview. And now all I have to do is drop my type in here. And since I've created my type in another document, I'm just going to copy it. And note that in my other document, it's on the type layer. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, and now Edit, Paste in Place. Oops, I just got that, didn't get the other one. Edit, Copy, and Edit, Paste in Place. So looks like I did a little differently on this document, but that's fine. It's just placeholder text in any case. Also making sure that those pasted into my type layer, that's because I had paste remember layers turned on. So it kept them in the correct layer. So let's save what we've done here. And I just want to show you another way of thinking about multi-state object buttons by going back to my demonstration document here and looking at my page 2. And I've taken a different tactic to these buttons, which is rather than having forward and back buttons, I have buttons that actually function as little titles. So the White Pass steam train is here. If I want to see the White Pass diesel train, I would click on this one, and to Bennett Lake on that one. Let me preview it, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's go to Window, Interactive, and open up our SWF Preview button. And you can kind of see how these buttons function. Which is kind of interesting. It's a different idea than going to next state because you know what it is that you're going to see, and this functions, as I said, as a title. So let's see how we do that one. I'm just going to do this last one so you can kind of see how it's done. I choose my button there, and I go to Buttons and Forms, and I choose Type, Button, Name, I'm going to call it View from Train. I'm going to add the action, just go to state. And when I do that, my object, Alaska Rail, comes up, and I can choose whichever state I want that to go to, and I want it to go to View from Train. So I just choose that. And now I'm going to create a rollover. And in this case, I'm just going to apply a style. I already created a rollover for train button and go back to my normal state. So let's go ahead and preview that. And you can see that works just fine. And if I go to preview document, see my page navigation. Oops, forgot to hit play. That was my mistake. I should be able to navigate through my document. Closing, I'd just like to review how we used our layers here, that our guides were in the guides layer. I'll just turn those off. Our background, we're in the background layers. Our multi-state object and the navigation associated with that were in the images layer. The type was in the type layer. And the page navigation was on the page navigation layer. And if you organize your files like this, it'll just make your work a whole lot easier. So thank you for working along with me on multi-state objects. And in the future, we'll have lessons on creating hyperlinks and email links.